Hello everyone, I'm Badley Jonathan and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital. Dwelling our top stories, the mayor of the Southwest Regional Chief Town, Boye Kema Patrick Esunge, goes to war against Operation Ghost Town. Speaking to us today here in the economic capital, Douala, he said enough is enough. No more Operation Ghost Town in the city of Boyas. From next Monday, we'll equally take a look at the impact of the influx of displaced persons into the opaque city of Limbe, the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. In the meantime, Territorial Administration Minister of the Republic of Cameroon, Tanganji Paul, is determined to implement President Paul Biya's close to 13 billion francs CFA emergency aid plan to displaced persons in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, as well as those in neighboring Nigeria, despite the challenges on the ground. Those were top stories. We begin this newscast in the opaque city of Limbe, in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, with our correspondent Davidson Maimo. We take a look at the impact of the continuous influx of displaced persons into that city. Many people who have been displaced or forced out of their homes in different parts of the southwest region are now seeking refuge in the city of Limbe. Davidson Maimo talked to some inhabitants and compiled this report.
As the Anglophone crisis continues to persist, with more towns and villages witnessing gunshot, burning and destruction of houses and properties, the city of Limbe remained the only major city west of the Mongo to witness the recent gunshot, burning and destruction of houses and properties, thereby serving as a safe haven for internally displaced persons, IDPs. Strange faces are seen every day, especially within the commercial motorbike riders sector.
It's true that there are many riders from other areas in the northwest and southwest region.
The town don't be full with riders the way they come up for different areas. They come here because of the crisis we're there for Cameroon.
The presence of unknown commercial motorbike riders might be a serious security threat within the city of Limbe, as the good, the bad, and the ugly are all trooping in their new safe haven, Limbe.
Now they don't come to just confuse two for town. Because no places there. Side 200 now 100. We pay the pen at 100. The people say you don't want to elephant. After you deny that, then the car after they know the pay your car and they go.
The crisis business persons in the Limbe New Market say has a negative effect in their business.
Yes, so I would pray say at least make something try do something so I may try even better small. Because but with the over suffer, with the suffer over. Small times so school can't open. And only through the market are picking a free go school. So if you're not make them picking no free go school. So
market where they sell and customer they need the fair camp for can buy them. So market really strong.
Since as this strike will not see any work on one side. Plus that you wrote it day. Even market we know customer can buy one place no problem.
The business really move. Really move that way at first.
First time we did sell fan. Now so we need to move that way.
Everything being equal, things are hard, especially to families hosting internally displaced persons, as they now have additional mouth to feed.
A Southwest correspondent based in Limbe, Davidson Maimo, talked to legal mind barrister Obi Are Emmanuel, and this is what he had to say concerning the prevailing situation in that city.
I became sensitive in noticing very strange faces in Limbe, and upon my finding, I realized that there are people who have displaced themselves from other localities due to the ongoing crisis. So the town has become so crowded, and I had to keep late. One day, made a round and discovered that so many of these people don't even have relatives here. So they sleep in slums and uncompleted buildings, owned by people they don't even know. So, and they keep coming day by day. They keep coming for refuge. From the way things are going, the recent attacks in Ekona, Moyoka, Mutengene, Buea itself, Limbe seemed to be the only safe ground for now. And the kind of people who see that we don't even know. Quoting from, is it Junior Achebe? He said, all lizards crawl and you don't know which one has belly bite. So my take is that the call from international communities, the call from NGOs, the call from Amnesty International and other political leaders, getting a solution to the crisis, the process should be hastened because these kind of people, as long as they stay here, the ideas keep changing and nobody knows what may happen tomorrow. So I really plead and pray that peace should reign and the authorities that be should act very swiftly.
And in neighboring Buea, chief town of the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, the mayor of that municipality, Ekema Patrick Esunge, has said there will be no more Operation Ghost Town in that part of Anglophone Cameroon. Speaking in an interview to Equinoxe television, he said he and his collaborators have launched a crusade against Operation Ghost Town and other activities of the separatists. This is what he said.
The city of Buea is waxing very strong, well, and standing upright, despite echoes of threats here and there. Yesterday, Thursday, 5th of July, we had to summon a town hall meeting in the form of a press conference to ascertain and alleviate the fear implanted by the unknown in the minds of the denizens of Buea. We were taken unawares on Friday, Sunday, and Monday last week, and there is every need for us to stand up and prepare the minds of our people and of course encourage them to go about their daily businesses. I, as the custodian of the socio-economic life of the city of Buea, have not declared any ghost town. And so anybody declaring a ghost town should declare it formally. Anything informal is unknown and should not be accepted. And so we have talked to our people. We are sure Monday life will be normalized in the city of Buea just as it is today. I want to be very categoric. All structures owned by the council on Monday, the doors will be wide open. All movables owned by the council will plow the streets of Buea. And so we have talked to the business community to accompany the council to realize these goals. We are quite optimistic. That it's going to work. The markets are owned by the council, and so it is but obvious that the Buea Town Market, this Great Sepo Market, and a few other satellite markets will open their doors on Monday, and I will personally supervise.
And despite the fear and uncertainty looming over the Anglophone parts of Cameroon, the northwest and the southwest region as a result of the deepening Anglophone crisis, the mayor of the Buea municipality, Ekema Patrick Esunge, equally told us that the municipality is ready to receive the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, who has announced the start of the implementation of President Paul Biya's close to 13 billion francs CFA emergency aid plan to displace persons in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, as well as those in neighboring Nigeria. Here's an extract of what Mayor Ekema Patrick Esunge told us.
The entire business community had been meeting, and I think that people have been clamoring for dialogue. I think we had a sincere, sustained dialogue yesterday, and I think that is how we should move on with the dialogue on a vertical structure. There are no particular persons to be invited for a dialogue. Do you invite somebody you don't know to talk with? I think what is important is stakeholders of the city, the stakeholders of the division, the stakeholders of the region, the stakeholders of the nation to discuss a way forward for our country. There are no defined categories of persons to be invited. I have as a responsibility to man a crusade. I started my crusade yesterday, and I'm sure the victims within my area of competence, or area of jurisdiction, are eager to recall, and of course, they will attend to the minister when the appropriate time.
And Territorial Administration Minister Paul Atanganji has said nothing will stop the implementation of President Paul Biya's close to 13 billion francs CFA emergency aid. Equinoxe reports.
Things are under control. We have pockets of resistance that we can really minimize, which cannot really hinder the deployment of the activities on the field.
No matter threats of resistance from Amazonian Defense Forces, the humanitarian emergency plan of President Paul Biya will move on absolutely hitch-free in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon come next week, says Minister Paul Atanganji, President of the Ad Hoc Interministerial Committee charged with the implementation of the Solidarity Action Plan to affected English speakers.
I want to tell you that everything is under control. We have pockets of resistance, but I can tell you that the pockets of resistance cannot disturb the plan of action which is put in place. The forces of law and order have taken appropriate measures.
He gives justifications for whosoever doubts the success of the activity.
During the celebrations of the 11th February, we had messages that no, there will be no celebrations. We held those celebrations in the northwest and southwest region. During the celebration of 8th of March, we had stories that there will be no celebrations. We held those celebrations on the 8th of March in the northwest and southwest regions. During the 20th of May, we had the 1st of May, Labor Day, people said no, we will not hold those celebrations. Those celebrations were held effectively in those regions. During the 20th of May, it was even marvelous. I think the message should be clear. We are carrying humanitarian assistance to a population affected by atrocities created by people who don't belong to this country. I sincerely believe that, the forces of defense and security have taken appropriate measures.
During a joint press conference in Yaoundé Thursday, Communication Minister Issa Chiruma Bakari read out the strategic objectives of the humanitarian emergency plan.
Restore a living environment conducive to the development of the communities concerned, to provide emergency humanitarian assistance to population in distress, to ensure the socio-economic reintegration of individuals and communities who are victims of violence and forced to move, to rehabilitate infrastructure destroyed as a result of such violence, and in general to promote social cohesion and living together.
Displaced English speakers and Anglophone refugees in neighboring Nigeria are those governments of the Republic of Cameroon peeps with the humanitarian gesture.
This emergency humanitarian assistance plan targets both displaced and refugee population with the understanding that under the humanitarian law, displaced population are those who, forced with a particular crisis situation, are obliged to abandon their usual places or residence, but to settle elsewhere within the national territory.
The targeted populations, politicians, and members of the civil society have been reacting differently on the subject. Some have called for the resolution of the Anglophone crisis by government before it visits the affected populace. Rather, government, the master planner, has paid deaf ears and calls on Cameroonians, gripped by doubt and fear, to remain calm and witness the humanitarian emergency plan sailing through both regions successfully.
At least 28 passengers in a 30-seater bus have been reported dead in a road accident early today along the National Road number 4, linking the cities of Yaoundé and Bafoussam in the central and west regions of the Republic of Cameroon, respectively. The accident occurred around the locality of Nkongnyambeta in the Mbaman Inubu division of the central region of the country. Several young people who were traveling, notably students who were going on holidays, are among the dead victims, and the 30-seater bus left Yaoundé for Buda. Now we talk about in poor behavior in society. We're going over to the south region of the country to take a look at the problem of poor behavior in society that has become or has been identified as a major problem to council developments. For me, I'm Sanja reports.
In 1955, with a population of about 20,000 inhabitants, Ngolemakong subdivision, gateway into the south region of Cameroon, does not present an appealing image to visitors. Poor sanitation seems to be the main characteristic shared by most people in this locality. Individual houses, public and parapublic structures in Ngolemakong subdivision are buried in grass and occupants seem less disturbed about it. One of the causes to the insanitary nature of this locality is the absence of a waste collection and disposal company. We are hoping that the sanitation service be effectively restored. I think that all those who contribute to unsanitary nature should be severely punished. It is the only means by which we can have a clean town. Another form of uncivic behavior in this council area is tax evasion. Traders resist to pay tax, which retards local council development. I called the attention of taxpayers to the fact that when you construct, you have to pay for the building permit. When you open a shop or a motel, you should pay your tax. Despite the challenges in raising council revenue, Mayor Anicet Abed Aqua and team succeeded in generating a more than 62% revenue rate of their 2017 municipal budget. Despite the scarcity of resources, I am satisfied with the score that we recorded. The 2017 municipal budget of Ngolemakong Council stood at 999,044,872 francs CFA, realized to the tune of 872,562 francs CFA in absolute terms.
Cameroon's Minister of Public Health, Andre Mamafuda, has told the new board chair, Director General and Deputy Director General of the Douala General Hospital to work hard in view of maintaining that hospital on its position of leading hospital in the city of Douala and among the ranks of hospitals of reference in the Central African sub-region. They were commissioned into their functions today.
From infrastructures through equipment to quality of service at the Douala General Hospital, the new officials commissioned into their functions Friday have several challenges to brave. While installing Professor Elvis Ngole as board chairman, Professor Luma Name Henry as general manager and Dr. Penda Ida Calixte as deputy general manager, Cameroon's public health minister highlighted some major areas of priority awaiting their expertise.
Professor Henry Luma, Dr. Penda Ida Calixte, your appointments as Director General and Deputy Director General of this hospital took place in a special context, notably during major rehabilitation and the enhancing of the technical platform of the Douala General Hospitals. Vous êtes désormais le premier responsable de ces structures sanitaires.
Minister Andre Mamafuda urged the new officials of the health amenity to maintain it within the ranks of reference hospitals in Douala, Cameroon, and Central Africa.
You have the heavy task to properly manage this ambitious project, knowing that the main objective is to maintain the Douala General Hospital as the first health facility in the city of Douala, inspiring confidence in Cameroonians and having influence in the Central African sub-region.
Professor Elvis Ngole says frank and cordial collaboration is the ultimate gateway to success in their assignments for the well-being of the hospital and patients.
Collaboration is the key. We collaborate with each other. Collaboration among the members of the board, collaboration with the management team, the Director General and his assistant,
collaboration with all the other staff members, the doctors, the experts, the support staff, and everyone. With that spirit of collaboration, we can begin to solve those challenges that you referred to earlier.
The former Minister of Forestry and Wildlife, Professor Elvis Ngole, takes over the position of board chairman of the Douala General Hospital from Dr. Nalova Lyonga, now Minister of Secondary Education, while the new general manager, Professor Luma Name Henry, takes over from Professor Bele Prizo. The latter had been serving as general manager of that hospital for the past 21 years.
Coming up, the smart side of the World Cup. Thanks for joining us on the smart side of the ongoing 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. The Blues of France have defeated Uruguay 2-0. Good evening.
Good evening, Babila. Good evening to several televiewers.
Was it surprising?
No, it wasn't surprising, but if we have to go through the historical, there is a record meeting between France and Uruguay. You must have understood that that is out of 5 matches already played by these two countries. Uruguay was leading by an advantage that they have scored at least one. They have defeated France once, and the remaining matches have ended in draw. So I knew that the match between France and Uruguay was going to be a very, very entertaining game, and of course the best side was supposed to carry the day. And obviously, let me say the best side carried the day for today, and that was Les Bleus de France, who were so wonderful this afternoon. And it should be noted that it was all with the game. FIFA says no to racism. It was a very tough game, very, very engaging match between the two teams. And you must have noticed France decided to change, and this header was one of the first goal that we saw. The goalkeeper for Uruguay, Muskelera, couldn't make actually a save from that head from Raphael Varane. Raphael Varane, should be recorded, is one of the first person who scored for France, and it is not usual for a Frenchman or defender to score for France, but he was the first person to score some few minutes before the break. It was a demolished Uruguay side, Luis Suarez, who were heading back. Before, in the second segment, this man they call Antoine Griezmann increased the tally, and most persons are blaming the goalkeeper Fernando Muskelera, who let that goal in from Antoine Griezmann. So at the end of the day, it was Uruguay that they were very angry, annoyed. They used every tactics, but no way. It ended 0 for Uruguay and 2 for France, and it was a clash between two former champions, two countries who have once tasted the trophy. So one country is already out. We said today 1 or 2 big teams or big names will leave the tournament, and the first big name is Uruguay.
And considering the strength of Uruguay as far as football is concerned, this can be considered like one of the surprises of this edition of the World Cup.
Surprise, we may put it that way.
2-0.
2-0, but it's really a big surprise, as you put it. But you know, at this level of the competition, there is no big team, there is no small team. Most of the teams that have arrived at this level, they have the caliber. And just to note, Babila, that Uruguay and Belgium were the only side to have qualified to the knockout phases without a defeat. That is from group stages right up to the round of 16. They have not tasted any defeat right up to this level. The first team that did not concede a defeat in the group matches is already out. We don't know what will happen in the next game. That will be coming up some few minutes time from now.
All right, that is the records.
Now, talking about the French national team, Babila, it will be the 6th time they will be qualifying for a semi-finals at a World Cup. And just to note, the very first time that they qualified for the semi-finals, Babila, they met with Brazil at the semi-finals. That was in 1958, and guess what? They lost to Brazil by 1-0. And France again met with West Germany in 1982 and 1986, where they also lost, and they managed to beat Croatia in 1998 at the level of the semi-finals, and in 2006 they beat Portugal too at the level of the semi-finals. So France will be qualifying for the 6th time at the level of semi-finals at any World Cup. Now we decided to pay an attention on the squad of France Let us look at the squad of France that actually played today. Most of them were part of the game today.
Comprising of many nations.
Comprising of many nations. You have at least 4 Africans, or 5, if we have to put it that way. 1 from Portugal, and the Frenchmen themselves, there are just 4 of them. So it is like a mixed continent that played against the South American side. So that is the squad of France that actually won the team of Uruguay today. So you want to see all of them double nationality, or maybe they decided to nationalize as Frenchmen. You see the number of Frenchmen who are in that squad, just 4, and 2 Cameroonians, Mbappe, Umtiti, 2 Guineans. We have Paul Pogba and the guy they call N'Golo Kante. Matuidi, he is from Angola, and the 2 other guys, they are from European nations, or Portugal, and of course from Italy. So that is France.
Over the years, Africa has been making the strength of the French national squad.
Yes, and that is France for us that actually defeated their guys today. And we also had a very wonderful picture in the course of that game. A dragonfly. We have the issue of Hugo Lloris. That actually was one of the pictures that we captured in the course of that game. You mustn't have noticed that, but our eyes were so keen on the goalkeeper of France, who is none other than Hugo Lloris. Hugo Lloris was actually caught on camera. A dragonfly was almost entering his mouth. Are you seeing that? The match was still 0-0. But the dragonfly was almost getting into the mouth of Hugo Lloris. We don't know what was happening at that moment in time. We don't know whether Hugo Lloris was praying or what was happening with him. That was at the 16th minute of the game. A dragonfly was getting towards the mouth of Hugo Lloris.
Now we're going to take a look at the key moments of the game.
Key moments. The child at the end of the game, we saw this young man, or let me say he was so flabbergasted. He was so surprised. They were beating his team. The guy was crying when they scored the second goal. It was just not this guy, the boy was watching with a lot of dexterity. He started crying on the pitch. But not only him, Babila, we also had a player for Uruguay. They call him Jimenez. He is Jose Jimenez, who was also crying. He followed the same pattern of this young man who was touched by the defeat of Uruguay. Maybe our technician can move the picture a bit for us to see that player who was also in pains when he noticed that the time was already running against them. Jose Jimenez also was actually crying in the course of that match. Maybe Andam can give us that snapshot of Jose Jimenez, who was also a player on the pitch. He was still engaged in the competition, but was crying. Well, unfortunately, we're not going to see the face of that player of Uruguay, but just to note that whenever these 2 players don't play the match, Cavani and Suarez, when they don't start the match, that game is always ending against Uruguay. That is, it's never ending in favor of Uruguay. It's always against them. So we decided to come out with that aspect of the game. Diego Forlan, or let me say Edison Cavani, was injured and was supposed to start from the bench. Luis Suarez alone played 2 positions on the pitch. He couldn't actually fill all of those gaps. Unfortunately, he was beaten. And the surprise spectators at the pitch this afternoon that we saw, Cristiano Ronaldo, Ramos, and a host of others. Those are them. Messi too was there. They were surprised that France was already getting Cristiano Ronaldo. The eyes were wide open. And of course, Ramos was surprised. Messi too was surprised. And the other key players, Michel and all of them, surprised at what was happening. Those were the surprise spectators of the game today. Now,
Brazil, Belgium.
This evening, we are having another tough game. And it's going to pit the Seleções of Brazil against the Red Devils of Belgium. Is another staunch quarterfinals match that we're going to watch. Records: Belgium will be entering the match as the most offensive side at the World Cup. A total number of 12 goals scored already. In terms of possession, we have Brazil just 1% above them. But in terms of corners, sport kicks, Brazil are so wonderful. Shots, Brazil are the same with them. So that is a comparison, that is a head-to-head between Belgium and Brazil, who will be playing later on for us to get the second qualified team for the semi-finals, to know that the winner between Brazil versus Belgium is going to confront the Blues of France, who picked up their first qualification. Now we decided
that's going to be South American versus Europe head-to-head
again. And now let us see the head-to-head. With the victory of France, this head-to-head should have changed, because we will have South America versus Europe head-to-head. We have 4 wins for South America, 4 wins for Europe. But with the victory of France this evening, there are 5 wins for for Europe and 4 wins for South America, and 3 draws this far. So we are going to expect another hot encounter this evening between South American side, Brazil, the Seleçãos, against the Red Devils. And finally this evening we're going to conclude with the game that is going to come up tomorrow.
Russia against Croatia.
Russia against Croatia, I should rightly put it. Head-to-head during this World Cup, we shall see that Russia, as a host nation, they have qualified to the level of a semi-finals just once, and that was when they were called the Soviet Union in 1970, and they were defeated by Uruguay at that level of the competition. This is the second time. The last time they qualified was then, and this is the time they're also qualifying. And in terms of goals, you should have realized that at this level of the competition, Croatia, they have scored 6 goals against 1, so they are very offensive. 1 win for Croatia, again no win for Russia. So it's going to be another tense encounter that we're going to watch tomorrow. Just know that this weekend we are going to have several other matches that will be coming up. We have the likes of Russia that is going to play with Croatia. We have England that is still in the competition, and the other teams. This weekend we are going to watch them, and to note that these teams are going to have another period of rest after this weekend's encounter before they engage in the semi-finals phase. So we are already getting towards the end of the 21st edition of Russia 2018.
Thanks, Smanjikan Gibre. That was the smart side of the World Cup, and this is where we draw the curtain on this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thanks for staying with us. Do have a nice weekend in the company of our programs. Goodbye.